Hey class, how's it going? Brandon Lane here, and this is, I guess, my version of my peeps. So we can start here with me. I was born in West Islip, New York. It's a city in Suffolk County on Long Island. I was born there. Currently, obviously, as you guys know, I'm a grad student at UGA. Born and raised in Long Island my whole life, and I'm new to the South. So that's pretty much about me. Um, My parents, so Sherelle and Claude Lane. My mom, she was born in Brooklyn, African American. Um, she graduated high school and did some college, and she's worked in insurance um, pretty much her whole life. I have one brother, he's older than me. And my mom just recently retired from that. My dad actually, so he moved here. My dad's from Panama, so my dad is Latino, so I'm Afro Latino. Um, Came here when he was 25, 26 ish. He was born in Rainbow City in Panama. His whole life, he pretty much was just coming to America and looking for an opportunity to work. He found a job in retail and kind of stuck there, and he ended up as a manager and retired at that level. Um, his first language is Spanish, obviously. He speaks English as well. And my dad, I think he just completed high school. Didn't go to any college or anything like that. And then you're kind of thinking, 30 years ago, college wasn't really a thing, or you can just kind of come here and work and you'd be fine, 30, 40 years ago. That's, how it was. Um, his mother's Elmina Lambert, born in Panama. Back then, obviously, she spoke Spanish, English. Women, she was a housewife, just did, I guess, what society kind of, what was kind of the norm in society. A woman, you take care of the home and take care of the kids. I think my dad was like one of nine. Some of them are in America, some of them are still back over there, and they're not really in touch. Um, yeah, a lot of kids, and his father's name was Frank Lane, born in Panama. Had a good job. He worked for GE. He did HVAC stuff, obviously first language, Spanish, English. Um, I don't know anything about his mother. So his mother passed when he was like 5, so he knows nothing. And I only know from him and like my immediate he has a sister here and an uncle that lives in Texas, but I think a good portion of them are still back in Panama, and they're not really in touch. So we don't know anything about his mother. So my dad's grandparents, so his dad's parents. His mother's name was Ivy, not sure. And then dad name was Henry, and they came from Barbados. So I think they originally emigrated to Panama. I'm guessing like in the early 1900s or whenever to work on the canal zone. He worked on ships. He was a stevedore, or like a dockman, or I'm not sure. But that's it. And I'm sure they probably had no education. Panama still, even to this day, it's a pretty poor country. Go to my mom's side. So my mom's African American, and that's it. So you can trace her lineage back to like slavery time. In the colonies in South Carolina. So my grandmother is Mamie Townsend, born in Barnwell, South Carolina. She, again, was a housewife, took care of the kids and stuff. My mom is one of three. Her dad, Edward Townsend, he's born in Pennsylvania, but they moved to New York for work, and he was like a cook, cleaned dishes, stuff like that, and he did that, and I grew up in New York City. They both moved. Grandmother's parents, so Gussie Hankerson, she was a housewife again, Barnwell, South Carolina, and Ezekiel, he was a farmer. This had to have been probably like early 1900s or so. So they weren't slaves. I guess they had owned their own land at this point, I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm born to Agnes Williams and Angus Hankerson. They were both farmers or sharecroppers. And this was probably late 1800s, so slavery was probably just ending. Ezekiel's parents, Richard, Holly, Tina Price, they all lived in that part of South Carolina, Bennettsville, or Barnwell, excuse me. And this was, I guess, the interesting part. So on this line here, Ezekiel and Mary Beers. So Eddie Beers, the Beers, kind of interesting part. That part, they were never slaves. That line, they owned land. So just me being inquisitive and knowing history, I know there's a lot of like conspiracy theories and stuff. I don't know if they were mixed white, like English, like the English settlers that came over, or if they were some part of like Native American, native, maybe, I guess, I'm not sure of the native tribes of that area. I guess maybe Cherokee or Seminole, maybe, I don't know. But apparently they were never slaves. They own their own land. So I'm kind of thinking how that kind of came about. I don't know. Again, I mean, this is probably for another topic of conversation, but there's a lot of conspiracy theories about like the whole slavery thing. But that kind of got me thinking. So they owned their own land. They were never slaves. So my general thinking, I'm thinking they had to have probably been mixed, or maybe been native, and they gave them something for their land. I don't know. So it was Eddie Beers, he married Victoria Ellerby, and we're talking maybe like 1860 they were born, something like that. So slavery was just at the end or ending. But regardless, this part, so the Beers and Hollies, I got this mixed up. So the Hollies and the Beers, those two were never slaves. Those two families in that area of South Carolina, I think we've done some research and traced some back further, and they weren't slaves as far as we can trace back. They had their own land, so it's just very interesting to figure out what happened. But yeah, that's pretty much is my peeps, my family tree. So it's just interesting. So here, my dad had a pretty rough life in Panama. It was tough, especially toward the end. I guess the Americans came over, and then, they had the canal zone and all that stuff in the army base and stuff. So he left when he was young, around my age, and he doesn't really talk about it much. He's been back, but he says it's really bad over there, so he doesn't talk about it much. But as you can see on his end, it really don't have much. Really don't know too much on that side. So, yep, that was it, and that's a little bit about me and my family. So all this, kind of ended with me, and you kind of go from just workers and a little bit of education, and then here, moving to New York, and my parents doing well for themselves, and me continuing that on, as well as my brother. So, yep, that's pretty much me. Thank you.